Hello again, everybody. This evening I'm talking to Kate Ryan, who is the author of The Golden Book, which came out in August from Scribe. Without much further ado, I'm just going to launch straight into things with Kate. Hi, Kate, how are you?
Katy, I'm well. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you. Now, your book came out in August of this year.
Yes.
And it's a book, I read it with enormous pleasure. It's a very complex book. It's got a lot of layers to it. But basically, it's very much a book about children being children, isn't it, back in the 80s? What was your impetus? What was this story for you?
I find the age of the girls at the heart of the story, which is 12, nearly 13, a very interesting age, kind of on the cusp of adolescence. And I'm also, I guess, interested in childhood friendships that I think we can idealise what friendships in childhood are, but often they are very complex. They can be rivalrous. They can contain love and hate and a whole lot of things. And so I was drawn to writing about that.
So was it as much writing about that as, the way that because your book is set back most of it is set back in the 80s when these two girls, Jessie and Ali are young children. Is it in any way a sort of commentary on the kind of parenting that went on in the 80s, and sort of looking at how the modern day Ali is looking at her own parenting?
It wasn't meant to be a commentary in a kind of judgmental way, but I guess I wanted it to be observational of the difference between then and now, and I guess I'm conscious of not wanting to give away central aspect of the plot, but there was good and bad in that, and I'm just very interested in the private world of children of that age, particularly. I think there was a lot of freedom in that time. It carried sometimes a great risk as well as it did for my characters.
Do you remember living, I'm thinking back to my own childhood and the things we got up to. Do you remember living that sort of freedom that your characters very much seem to have?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, pretty much a free-range childhood. I didn't grow up in a country town, but just in suburban Melbourne. Pretty much it was the norm. We were left to our own devices, but I was a child who kind of, I was a combination of the two characters in the book, in a sense. I was quite bookish and shy, but I was quite adventurous physically. So I was kind of combined those elements into my two characters, really.
Yes, you're not sort of dividing one or the other. But tell me about your friends. Did you have unsuitable friends? I had unsuitable friends. Did you?
Yes, probably later than the age my characters were, I did. But more, I guess with my friends, we would push each other to do reckless things. And that was something that I really enjoyed. There wasn't, I guess there are aspects of various friends in these two characters, both of them. Yes.
You've written, without giving away too much, so I will be careful how I word this, but you have written on two levels about sort of disability, about one of the girls is finding reading very much of a challenge, and you read through that she is possibly dyslexic or quite definitely dyslexic, and then later we have an aftermath of an accident where someone is in a comatose or catatonic state. So was this a sort of a motivational threat? Was this something that you felt you really needed to include in this particular narrative about childhood?
No, the inspiration, I guess, came from visiting the place where the accident occurred. And so the events kind of came out of that, and I sort of imagined two girls going to this place, which wouldn't give anything away, Mumbler Falls, which is a beautiful waterhole on the south coast of New South Wales. And I imagined these two girls there. So I guess the story came from that. And I didn't necessarily... for some reason, I imagined that one would be able to read really well and the other not. And in a way, everything came from that. But it's also a place where people still swim there. It's got a natural rock slide, but it is a very significant site for the Yuin people of the area, and the surrounding bush was given back to the Aboriginal custodians in the 1980s, later than when my book is set. But the custodians have said they would prefer people they would like people to reconsider swimming there, but they don't actively say don't swim. So, but I did see people doing very reckless things, young kids. So I guess that was the beginning as well.
Yeah, so I suppose in a lot of ways that's a kind of a prolonging of the idea of the risks that we take as children, and then how well or less well we might sort of come out of the other end of some of the risks we've decided to take. It's a very interesting...
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to show the effect not on the person it happened to, but really on the other person, and how events in childhood, traumatic events, but not necessarily, but certain events can stay with people and be echoed in particular ways throughout their life. Really.
Yes, because when you are writing about any event that's traumatic, whether it be, sort of huge, devastating, sort of public or collective trauma or individual, when you're writing about that, you're trying, I presume, and was this a conscious thing with your the way you wrote it, that we're dealing with the problems of memory, aren't we? And we're looking back on a childhood, we're looking back on an event, and we may not always remember, or the trauma might block out. So getting that idea in your writing of trying to patch it all together, were you consciously using sort of a writing pattern or working with time in a particular way to sort of give that idea?
Not consciously. It took numerous drafts. I kind of, to get the order right, and I kind of moved things around. The past and the present. At first it was even more patchwork than it is now, but I eventually conceived on an order that I felt kind of gave that sense of immersion, I suppose, into something that comes up again for someone that has happened a long time ago. But it took a long time, but I was happy with it in the end. But I do think that, in a sense, that's how memory works. And yes, so I was glad it sort of reflected that.
Exactly. Did either of your characters ever, talking about this completely out of the blue, but did either of your characters ever surprise you? Or particularly your young girls? Did they ever get away from you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think... a central, the central sort of motif or whatever of the book is this golden book that the two girls write about their quests, their, supposedly daring activities that they're going to carry out, which is further complicated by the fact that one can read them and one can't. So I guess I was surprised what Ali ended up doing with that power that she had. So I guess I would say that.
So she's very much a child who sort of journaled or was a diarist in a way, wasn't she, of her sort of what's going on. Were you like that as a child? Were you a sort of a writer?
Yeah, I was. I pretty much, not kind of consistently and on and off, but yeah, I was. I was always writing things down. Yeah, for better or worse.
And this, I mean, we'll come back to the Golden Book, because I just suppose I was about to sort of comment to you on the fact that there's something also about the title of your book, which not only seems to refer to the Golden Book that these two girls kind of come up with together, and one is really the scribe and the other sort of a bit of a dictator of what should be put in it, but also that kind of golden haze of nostalgia as we look back on the memories of our childhood and that rather glorious sort of carefree existence, which doesn't necessarily stay as carefree all the way through. But it's looking back at it in that it's a very glorious title. Did you come up with that early, or was that something that kind of culminated? You came up with it at the end?
Yeah, I did come up with that early. It came out of imagining what kind of book they would buy from the newsagent, what it might look like. Mm. And I suppose it was meant to be a child's idea of grand, the Golden Book. And I mean, of course, there's the famous Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing. Mm. And I suppose that it was meant to have a lot of irony in the title, because I guess the time was golden for them, and as for many people, you can be very nostalgic, but there's often other layers of sadness and complication, and so I guess in some ways it's an ironic title.
It is in a way,
but yeah, it's nostalgic too.
Looking at your character Ali, because I was very interested in her. In several things about her, because she's one of the she looks at her own parenting, she looks at her own relationship with it's a troubled relationship, isn't it, in a way, with particularly a stepdaughter, and then about the risk taking that her own her own daughter is gets involved in making unusual decisions. Was it a conscious thing that you would want her to, that you might have wanted her to reassess the way she parented because she looked at her own past? I mean, I often look at what my children do and say I'd prefer not to look at what my children do, and then I say, hang on a minute, you get snarky with them about this, but how outrageous was I maybe not at that age? Well, mind you, we did some very odd things, so I won't tell you about those, but so was that kind of a conscious paralleling you wanted to get to?
Yes, it kind of was. I mean, I see it in my own life that with my kids, that the things that bother you the most, or that you kind of come down hard on them, are often things that you did yourself or mistakes that you made. But with my character Ali, I guess she doesn't want to be the way she is in relation to her daughter, but she feels she can't. She's kind of attempting to keep control, and it's almost like she's trying to keep at bay her child self, really. Or I mean, I keep saying children, but I think of them as adolescent, almost. That they're at that.
Yes, they're at that sort of in between. Yes.
Yeah. So, did that answer your question, hopefully?
I think so, yes. No, I think we got there on, yes, that she's definitely influenced. It's true, I think, that maybe the decisions we make as adults are looking back and you're doing this thing and I remember that didn't turn out so well for me, so maybe you should, rein it in a bit. So how long, I mean, did this book take you a long time to put together, or was it, how did that all happen for you?
Probably 6 years, I think. Yeah, yes. From the beginning to end. I mean, there were lots and lots of drafts. And I mean, I'm always juggling my writing with my other paid work. So, it took a while. But in the end, I wasn't sorry it took that long, because I think there were more layers that came into it. The longer every time I went back in, I kind of deepened it, I guess.
Yes, it sort of simmered nicely over the 6 years. Very nice. But this is not your first foray into writing by any means, is it? Really? I mean, you have other projects that have
Yeah.
come to interesting fruition.
I've had quite a few short stories and essays published, and I've also published children's picture books. So I've been doing it for quite a while. And in my previous life, I was worked in publishing on the other side, so I was an editor. But it's taken a while for my debut novel to come out. It's been a piecemeal kind of process. There was another novel that I did as part of a PhD, which won a prize but didn't ultimately get published in actual form, unfortunately. But I might go back to it sometime.
Yes, they always put them in the drawer and then have a look at them again and go, oh yes, well I could change this. How do you juggle your, I mean, this is just, I know my customers love knowing about how do authors write, what's their timetable like, and I'm curious how you sort of juggle your day job, your paid job with your writing. Do you set time aside, or is it just whatever you can grab?
Well, I do work that's very parallel because I actually mentor other writers, and I work for Writers Victoria and Australian Society of Authors. So I'm always working with writers. So I kind of just do it in a bit like the book, like in this really piecemeal kind of way, depending on what I've got going on. Each day I might have a bit of this and a bit of that. So it's not very ordered, and sometimes it works well and other times it doesn't. But I like the freedom of it. I like working for myself. So it's good, but it's a juggle.
Yes. How does mentoring happen? Just out of curiosity.
Well, people have manuscripts at different stages of completion. So usually when they have the first draft of a novel, I would write a report kind of talking about all the different aspects of it, plot and characterisation and stuff, and I would send them that, and then we would work together. They would respond and I would just make suggestions because it's all very subjective, of course. And then we kind of work together and just talk it over. It's a lot of fun. I really like
sort of
it.
A friendly editor. I'm sure all editors are actually deadly friendly, but it's sort of a loose editing process, is it, in a sort of way?
But it's kind of structural editing, really. I don't like doing the commas and, all that stuff. So that means I don't have to do that.
Yes, you can just get to grips with the beast.
Yes.
What has it been like for you, though? I mean, this has been a funny year. So releasing a novel in lockdown, has that been, how do you live that?
Yeah, look, it hasn't been ideal, I have to say. I think lockdown came down 2 days after the book came out. So any events that I was going to have, I didn't have. No one could get... people adjusted to getting books online, and I have a local bookshop around the corner, and they were incredibly supportive of me and had it in the window and encouraged people who came to buy it. And I've had a lot of anecdotal, emails, people saying they really enjoyed it, emails, which kept me going in lockdown, really. But I haven't been able to see it in bookshops at all. So that's been hard. Yes,
but you might still be able to do that. I mean, it's still, it's still one you can come in and say, "Ooh, that's my book is sitting on the shelf."
Yeah, exactly.
You'll find it in my bookshop. It'll be there. I had more questions, but I think I've had a printer problem today, so I have not got all of them with me. But we'll just keep going with talking about publishing this year and trying to bring a book out in lockdown. It is something that as a book seller we're very aware of, sort of trying to give a bit of space and airtime to authors whose books we have loved. Is there anything on your radar that you have, that you're thinking of reading or that you have read that, that you would sort of like to tell me about, that I can let my customers say, ooh, this is another one?
There was Luce, what's the author's name? I anticipated this question.
Good one.
Believe in Me.
Oh, the
Lucy Neve looks amazing. I really want to read that. I also am a fan of Jennifer Down, another local author, and she's got a new book out, Bodies of Light, I think.
Yeah, I've read that too.
So I'm keen to read those. What about, I'm reading Jonathan Franzen at the moment.
How's that going? That's a block.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
it's very, very, there are a lot of very, very big books out there at the moment. It's a big book.
Yeah, it's a big book, but it's very easy to read, and it's kind of got that very absorbing kind of almost an old-fashioned feel about it that gets you right in, you know.
That's interesting.
So I'm really enjoying that.
Yes.
I've got a bit of a stack.
Yes, I know. I mean, you bound to have, and I think that's one of the things we're looking at in the bookshop, is that within this month and next month we just have this tsunami. I mean, an absolute wave of these books, and it's trying to, you know, find people who said I've liked, loved, so I can give as many recommendations to our readers as possible, because I've read both the Neve and the Jennifer Down, and they are both absolutely smashing books. And for you, are there more things in the pipeline? Or I've seen that one of your picture books is reprinting, interestingly. Believe me, yeah. You might have to.
That's news to me.
Yes, go on, because I looked them up and I saw that one. It's the little koala one. One of those titles. That's right. Yeah, it says reprinting.
They're pretty old, those ones now. Oh, that's interesting.
Very cute.
Great.
So yes, going to the city. Yeah.
As far as adult stuff, because I pretty much only do adult stuff now, though I would still do a picture book maybe down the track. I'm working on I've got a second draft I'm working on of a new book about a disgruntled architect and his kind of very dysfunctional 20-something kids. And it's kind of a lot about how houses hold emotion. I'm very interested in memory and houses and how people live, which I guess is pretty spot on now with lockdown.
Oh golly, yes.
I've done a good couple of drafts, maybe another draft to go, and I hope to get that to my editor.
Well, we will definitely
get it out.
Yes, be looking forward to that one. I think we're coming up to very, very near the end of our allotted time, because all the cameras will turn off in not quite 50 seconds, but my alarm will go off, so I will pause that. Look, it's been, I think I'm going to have to sort of cut us short a little bit. I'm terribly sorry, but it's been absolutely gorgeous talking to you. We have we have loved your golden book, and we will keep loving it, and we will keep putting that into our customers' hands, and thank you for writing it. And
thank you for having me.
It's been
lovely.
It has been lovely, and I hope we can sort of see you in the shop and take a little photo if time and circumstance allow.
I very much hope so. It looks absolutely wonderful, the bookshop, so I want to get in there.
Thank you. All right, well, Kate, thank you so much for chatting to us, and I will just say goodbye to you, to everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us, and come in and buy a copy of Kate's book. We have lots of stock in the shop, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.